is going to address again the emotion wheel, which is where we left off. But are there any questions?
And what she's any questions, any concerns, um, either present or future, that you may want to lift up. They're here to respond.
I have a question, and it's not a present problem question for me, but maybe you guys can talk about dealing with having to make the decision to move a loved one into a facility versus care at home. And that's, like I said, it's not a present problem for me. I hope it never is a problem that I have to face with, but it's a real situation. I was talking to someone the other day, and the negative connotation they have with healthcare facilities versus in-home care. So maybe something dealing with wrestling with those choices. I think you guys had talked on it even last week about the guilt you deal with for not being able to care for your loved one. So that would be one of my questions.
Okay. As usual, Sister Chandel, you on point as usual. And I'm going to turn it over to Chaplain Walker. I'll just say in my visitation with visiting those in certain facilities, just with our members at Turner, and some are at home care facilities that are in home, and some are in facilities that are, the brick and mortar. And there is a difference. I have had to address some nurses and some in the facilities when I've seen members of our congregation, in my opinion, I won't say they have been neglected, but they're just their meals. It can be rather costly, and so that's going to make a difference. As opposed to in home, it can run you into some financial constraints, and that will dictate on sometimes on the type of care you get. One thing I do when I call the family members, I let them know what I've done or who I've addressed, and encourage them to follow up or whatever. And they are on top of things. And so the homes, the brick and mortar places that I visit that are in a home setting, I find that those individuals are more attentive to the individual. The home is very nice. It's not that many individuals where you have to care for a lot of them. So it does make a difference where you decide on having your loved one. Having them at home, you may have to think about getting a different type of bed, around the clock care, especially some members that I deal with, they are not actually in the same state, So it's very important that, not pat myself on the back or whatever, that somebody is checking up on them on a regular. I have not seen anyone being abused or anything like that. But if you are, I'll say this, and I'll turn it over to Chaplain Walker. If you are deciding to have your loved one in a facility, I have been to some phenomenal places, and I have been to some places that um, uh, make sure you are visiting your loved one on a regular, just to make sure they are getting the proper care. I've noticed that when eyes are on them, care is taken to a higher level. when they know, they're going to be checked on. So, and then we know that the money, that does make a difference. Yes. So I'll let Chaplain Walker. I hope that answered your question, Sister Ivy. It is a very difficult decision to make, a very difficult decision for individuals, loved ones to make. And they do, sometimes we do have to deal with the guilt of thinking that because we decided to put them into a facility, because sometimes that is what's left. And so you want to find the best one possible, but that is can be a guilt trip. But you have to remember that you are doing the best you can for your loved one. But I would say make sure you are following up. Dr. Chapman Walker.
Okay, several things I want to say here. First of all, the intentionality of understanding who your loved one is. We have to be very careful. What I mean by that is that if your loved one is declining and is failing to thrive, where they're not, it's harder to get them up, they're two-person assist to go to the bathroom and all of those things. And it is taking the toll on the overall well-being of the family. Then you need to start looking for a facility. One, because say that your loved one has a stroke and goes to the hospital, and you can't, and it's time to discharge, and they can't do a safe discharge. They may make the decision for you that the loved one will have to go to a facility. And so my thing that I tell families is you always need to empower yourself. Someone can tell me about the science of my loved one, the biological aspect of how they're aging, but no one can tell me about my mother. Does that make sense? I will know that if I put her in a place, she's claustrophobic. So I need to look at, is she going to have a window, right? I need to know that there are going to be activities. I need to know that I can send somebody to get her hair done. So what I am saying is that we have to be careful about our choices for our loved one. The other thing is we need to understand what insurances are going to pay for what, right? Does my loved one have long-term insurance? Do they have money somewhere in the government because they worked for the government years ago? What are my resources? So you start that process and begin to look at what are the options. You don't do it when they are ready to go. You do it ahead of time. And we're going to talk about that. I know that we got to get through these slides, so I don't want to be long. But what I'm saying is if you have a plan ahead, and that's what the pastor was talking about, and I'm going to talk about having a plan that evolves as you age. Does that make sense? Okay. Race the wheel. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this wheel.
Okay, let me share. Let me start to share my screen. One second. Oh, help me, Jesus. Okay. 1 second. Okay, can y'all see that?
What I want to say about
Yeah.
this is that when you get the document, I really want you to look at this wheel. Oftentimes our communication becomes important. We do things that are when we communicate our feelings about how our loved one is doing, we talk in generality, you know what I mean? Which gives the people that we're talking to, like we're tired or, we might be angry today, but what is driving that? What is driving that? Can you describe exactly your emotions. So I used to walk around all the time saying, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired, right? But the truth is, I'm not tired, I'm weary. The job, my responsibility, seeing gunshot victims, I become weary. That's different than saying, I'm so tired, right? So I want you to be able to identify the feeling. Sometimes when we care for our loved ones and we expect our other loved ones or our family system members in our family support system, we expect them um, to pitch in, right? So we might start feeling alone in our caring for our loved one. Then if I say to my church member, you know what, I'm really feeling alone in this, then my church member can say, well, why do you feel alone? Tell me more about that. Then I can describe what it's like. And then maybe they can say, you know what, um, you didn't get a chance to cut the grass? Don't worry about it. I can take care of that. You know what I mean? You're not alone. We're here for you. This is how we can help. So I really want you to look at those emotions. Now, all emotions, let me just say this, all emotions are not uncomfortable. Sometimes, do you have playful moments with your loved one? If you talk to your loved one about the past, you find out they can hold a conversation for a long time. You know why? Because their long-term memory is in place. What's not in place is their short-term memory. And if you tell a loved one, no, mom, go over there. It's on the stove. It's on the stove. That's not what you want to do because they may not understand directions, right? Directions, instructions may become difficult. Right and left may become difficult, like day and night becomes difficult. So what we want to do is say, mom, just go sit down on the table, sit near the table, and I'm coming, right? I'm coming. And you notice how low my voice got? I'm coming. But if I heighten my voice, they think I'm reprimanding them. Communication is important. Grace, I'm going to turn it over to you until we get to Pastor. I'm coming with your answer. I got a good one. Just hang in there with me, all right? Grace?
Grace, you got to unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank
Right.
you. As we have seen so far, we can see how being a caregiver and really being the one that's cared for is not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult. So we want to see how can we see both positions differently. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Gerald Jampolsky, who is the founder of a course in miracles. And within that course, he has a practical application called attitudinal healing. And it's a way we have to start looking and thinking and having a different attitude towards being a caregiver or the one that's being cared for. And it's a way to provide spiritual support to people who are, whether you're facing an illness or maybe a catastrophic event or a loss or whatever. And I embedded this video, did some research, embedded this video, and it's only 5 minutes and 28 seconds. So I just want you to look at this. Okay, yes, thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Okay, let me, 1 second, everybody. Oh my God, my pastor gonna fire me. Okay, let me, oh God, oh God. Okay, I gotta move y'all around because I can't see. Okay, let me just put this in. Can y'all see it? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure about Grace, if you can hear it on your end, but we
Can you hear it?
no, at least I
Can you
can't.
hear it, sir?
No.
Wait a minute. Let me just let me pause it. What did you say, sir?
No, I was just saying we couldn't hear. At least I couldn't hear on my end. I'm not sure if anyone else.
Yeah, we can't hear it. You have to share with sound.
Oh,
Before you
okay.
share it, you got to share with sound.
Okay. How do I do that? Oh, Jesus, help. God.
So if you stop sharing, Reverend Hollis, and then
Oh.
start again, and
Mhm.
at the bottom, you'll see a check mark that says share sound.
Okay. Stop sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, Lord Jesus.
Let me see
Okay.
if I can stop you.
Okay, I see stop sharing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then share with sound.
Yeah, if you hit share again, and then there's a little check box at the bottom that says share
yeah.
sound.
Oh, God bless you. Oh, bless you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'll go back to the beginning. Can you hear it now?
Yes.
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 My name is Jerry Jampolsky. I'm a child and adult psychiatrist. I happen to look at life as if it were an energy, a vibration. The candle for me is a symbol of the great song because there's a vibration that allows us to get past the body and see, for me, what is the closest thing to going across the bridge where we're in a God presence. The great music, what we're looking for, I believe, is something that's beyond the physical plane. It's beyond a form, indescribable in words. It's an experience that allows your heart to sing and vibrate with everything else as one. I'm here to be a messenger of light and love, to heal the illusion that we are separate from each other. Because I believe that there's an energy that comes from a higher source that we're all a part of. And the closest thing I think we can get to is feeling that we're light, we're all part of that light, and that we surrender to that love and we surrender to that light. So this is the song that I think is important. It's the song of love, the song of peace, the song of joy, the song of not taking ourselves so seriously here while we spend this little time on earth, to believe that there's no such thing as linear time. It's just a dream, an illusion that we were in this bubble of the earth, and that when we come here and see that we're just messengers of light and just imagine ourselves coming here, just turning into a body form for just a second and give that light to everyone and accept it for ourselves, because it's hard to play the music unless you play it yourself first. So it's being in harmony. And we discover the song again, the song that's always been there. When we wipe out the past and see everything with new eyes, so we don't think a weed is less beautiful than a rose. We don't think a fat person is less than someone who's slim. We don't think of an angry person as less lovable than someone who seems more lovable by their actions. And a lot of people my age are fearful of dying, and they're fearful of getting old, or fearful. And my song, when I go down the dock here, I live in a houseboat, someone says, "Hi, how are you, Jerry?" And I don't answer as if I have an ache in my body or pain. I say, "I feel greater than great." And they smile, and I smile, and we both go away feeling more happy. So I think the more we can let go of our attachment to our bodies, not seeing them as real, and if you are in pain, get some distance for yourself and see it as a body, to depersonalize it. So we see that only as an illusion, to see everything of form as illusion, then is when the beautiful music starts. And we don't compare it with other music. We just allow ourselves to have a new experience, not based on the past, but based on a brand new experience of being born over again right now, right now, right now, in this instant. So this becomes the most important instant in our lives right now, because this is an eternal moment that we're having. So that becomes another song when you're not fearful of death. What can I feel more when with another person I'm with? And finding something that'll make us feel more joined with each other. So joining is a song for me. Joining is a way of celebrating life, because when you feel that you're surrounded by love, there's a creator that loves us, and that creator is with us all the time. You cease asking questions. You cease being angry. You cease doing anything except expanding love and expanding peace and expanding joy to areas that are beyond, I'm sure, our imagination, certainly my imagination, beyond. So whatever that song is beyond my imagination is a silent, voiceless song of vibrations that are beyond my imagination, but I know are beyond anything I can experience here on Earth.
Unmute yourself, Chap.
Okay, thank you. I hope y'all found that helpful. Just looking at that, we don't have to fear death, and that we are all connected, that we can have a different song, a song of love, a song of peace, a song of joy, a song of joining, letting go of our attachments to this physical body, because that is not uh, everything of who we are. We are so much more than that. So in the midst of caring for someone, I know in my visitation and even in the hospitals, I try to make sure I make a spiritual connection, because it is more, it's more to the individual that is before me physically. So it's a brand new experience. Next slide. 6 ways we can lighten up when you are a caregiver is you might want, there's 11 ways actually in the book that we're going to provide, but I'm just going to highlight just 6 ways. Number 1 is give yourself a picture. And that is really just creating a visual image of how you want your week to be. Do you want it to be peaceful? Do you want it to be like you're roller coasting through your week? If we figure out, oh, how do we want it to look? How do we want to feel? How do we want to be in our upcoming week? Giving yourself a picture is a good way to give an image of what to expect. That's one way to lighten things up. Another way is you want to get literal with your downtime, and that's just something as simple as maybe you go into your home or your house after your day from work, and you have your keys, and when you literally put your keys down on the table, or put a bag of groceries down in the kitchen, or put your purse down, or put your briefcase down. You want that to be a literal moment where you are, okay, in putting this down, I am putting down my tiredness. I am putting down perhaps my bad attitude. I am putting down anything that may be bugging you, anything that may be weighing you down, where you cannot enjoy the space where you are. Literally, just I'm when I put this down, I am going to say to myself, I am putting down whatever it is that may be keeping me from enjoying my space right now. That's getting literal with your downtime. Another way to lighten things up is to leave loose change for others to find. I found this kind of interesting because for me, when I'm outside, I pick up pennies. I pick up pennies, I pick up dimes, I pick up whatever I find. And I know how it makes me feel. I smile because I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus, for penny. And so I know it makes me smile. So suppose, we just kind of, every block or whatever, you drop a penny, you drop a dime, you drop a nickel or a quarter. And then when you think about how happy that's going to make somebody else, just thinking about it, because you were intentional on doing that, can help you to lighten things up. And maybe, I'll pick up one of the pennies that you drop. I don't know. But I do know I pick up pennies. Another way is triggering your reality. Now, this has to do with, we know the scripture that talks about as a man thinketh or a woman thinketh, so is he or she. So you want to trigger that reality. You want to think about, what do I want more of in my life? Perhaps I want more serenities. Perhaps I want more surrender. Perhaps I want more peace. Or perhaps I want a creative exploration of life. These are things that can trigger your reality. And then you might want to, everybody knows about doing a collage or something. You may take a picture of yourself with your hands raised up. That's surrender. Or cut some pictures out of a magazine or something like that, where someone is very peaceful. That may be something to remind you to, how can I trigger the reality that I want? That's one way. Another way is to just swing your feet. I've done this. I know when I was in Afghanistan, in Germany and Afghanistan, it was not a pleasant experience, especially in Germany when I lost my mother. Now, one thing that feeds my soul is nature. I can walk in woods, and it just feeds my soul. See a tree, it feeds my soul. And this swinging my feet, I used to you have to sit in something high, which of course, you want it to be outside if you can. Sit in a high chair or a swing or something like that, and then look up to the heavens. And when you just swing your feet, it gives you the impression, or that you're free. It sets a it's a freedom type thing. And also, a lot of times it's good for us not to have our feet always planted on the ground. You want to feel a sense of freedom. That's one way to loosen things up. Another way is to bat a balloon around. This may kind of sound funny, but you blow up a balloon and you just kind of bat it around. Don't let it fall or nothing. Make sure you don't fall. You don't fall. But if you bat a balloon around, you'll find you'll be laughing. You'll definitely be laughing, and that way it kind of lightens up the energy, lightens up your energy. So those are just kind of 6 ways we can use to just lighten up the moment or
Chaplain
the
Grace.
atmosphere. Yes, sir.
I want to add this one thing also too, and it may be contributed to the fact that I'm a country boy. But during the summer or spring, definitely not in the winter, it is really important sometimes for you to walk outside in your backyard bare feet with no shoes on, letting your feet actually touch your backyard. I'm not talking about cement, nothing. I'm talking about in grass, that which we were created from.
Mm.
And having that, having your feet touching the ground, and especially like I said, during the summer, during the spring or what have you, in your backyard or something like that is very much so refreshing, just like walking on the beach in the sand with no shoes on. So just wanted to add that because I find that to be good, and it may be because I'm a country boy, but nothing wrong with the country boy. Y'all, there's nothing wrong with it.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm gonna have to try that. I'm gonna have to do that one. Thank you. Okay. Our next slide is when caregiving finally ends, and that is a difficult place to be when it ends. Although a long-term illness can afford us opportunities to really say meaningful goodbyes, that does not take away from the sorrow or anything that comes with that. The loss of a death is no less painful just because your caregiving is over. But these may be some helpful tips on how to cope with uh, the death of a loved one. We know we've already seen that grief is very real, and it doesn't follow any predicated path. It's unique to everyone. It's unique. It's as unique as our fingerprints. It's unique to everyone. That's why a lot of times, you know, I know how you feel. I'm not sure. So it is unique to everyone. And sometimes I think when people say, I know how you feel, or God will, you know, doesn't put more on you than you can bear, you know, don't say that to me. Don't do that. And another time is I think that's what I call the spiritual sidestepping. You're really not getting to the real issue. So spiritual sidestepping, those little colloquialisms that we say. And as we said, the grief doesn't follow a predicted path. It's very it's different for everyone, but we do, when the loved one does die, we need to make sure that we must explore our new normal, because things have changed. Things have changed, and we need to explore our new normal, which may be difficult for some caregivers, because caregivers often forget what real life is like, because they have had to put it on hold for so often, and we put ourselves on the back burner, that we have not had an opportunity or really take that space to nurture ourselves. Do you want to have something, sir?
In this particular part, and what you recommended, how to lighten up, and everything that Chaplain Walker is saying, because I want to share something from my experience as a pastor, is oftentimes what I have experienced is the person whom is getting the care outlives the caregiver.
Mm.
I want to say that again, that if the caretaker does not take care of themselves, the person whom you are giving care to will outlive you. And that's what I have experienced often in my pastoral career, is the caregiver transitioning when everyone is expecting, if you will, the one receiving the care to transition. And so I wanted to make that point before time gets away from us, and really the reason why, from my perspective and my intention of pushing and wanting to have this particular session and this conversation.
Mm, mm.
Grace, can I
Yes, ma'am.
jump in
Yes,
here
go
for a
ahead.
moment?
Yes.
Pastor, one of the reasons that happens, one, not the only, oftentimes we don't recognize when our loved one should be placed in a facility because we are no longer capable of caring for that person correctly, which in turns affects our health. Okay. So I think that goes back to the initial question. You know, when do we know? When do you know that you can't take care of your loved one? But it feels normal because sometimes our chaos in living becomes our normal. But we can have a better quality of life if we recognize the signs early that we're not taking efficient care of our loved ones, nor are we taking good care of ourselves.
I think what I'm going to do, because I looked at my clock, and I just have a few more slides, but I'm going to give y'all these slides. But I really want to get to Chaplain Walker's part of the presentation. I only have a few more slides. I'm not going to do those. I think her part is a little bit more, let me see, is addressing some of the things. These are just some affirmations that we can do, but I'm going to have them in there. This is where I want, let me see. Do I have this slide in here? Oh yeah. There you go, Chaplain Walker. I'm
I
gonna let you
appreciate
take
it
it over. Yes,
because I
ma'am.
wouldn't be able to join you next week. I'm taking off and my husband and I are going to have some time away. What I
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
talk about is we talked about what if what our loved ones have is hereditary. And we know that heart disease, diabetes, and cancer sometimes is hereditary. And one of the things that I want to say to you is this is where we can reconfigure hope. This is where reframing and starting early is important. One of the things is you should know the medical history of your family. And that means your mother and your father, but you also should know if your grandparents have had these chronic illnesses, right? If these things are documented, right, you can begin to see things ahead of time, what to expect. We do know that our genes can change. Do you know, if I give you one of the reasons we watch patients that where they're I shouldn't say that, I'm talking medical. When your blood is low, you're losing blood, and we give you blood, right? We watch you to make sure it hasn't affected you negatively. And that is because it's changing some of your genes. So that leads us to believe that if I know my numbers, what I mean by that, if I know my weight, my blood pressure, my sugar, all of these things, if I'm checking on these things and I know who I am and I'm documenting this, then I can reconfigure hope by saying, okay, this happened to mom, but this is what I need to do. So one of the things I'm going to share with you personally, my dad died at 64 of cancer. Oh Lord, he had prostate cancer, and then he had colon cancer. So the moment he died, I went to the doctors and said, okay, I know it's every 10 years I need a colonoscopy, but he died. So do I need to do a different plan for me, right? So I do my colonoscopy every 5 years because cancer runs in my family. My brother died of leukemia, right? My sister has breast cancer. So then the other thing I did, Pastor, to be proactive, and this is to your point that you asked last week, is I went out and got an insurance policy that says if I have cancer, if I have a heart attack, right? If I have diabetes, I have an insurance policy that will cover those things medically in the hospital. And that's outside of my regular insurance. That way my family doesn't have the burden of figuring out how to care for me. That's another thing that you can do. My mom, on the other hand, was 64, and all of a sudden she became AFib, where her heart, her heart had odd rhythms, right? So now I see a cardiologist, right? Early, the moment they diagnosed her, I diagnosed myself, right? These are the things that we can do that help us. And one of the other thing I really, really want to stress this, because since I've been at the University of Maryland Capital Region Health, I could not believe the number of our patients in our community that doesn't have primary care doctors. They use the emergency as their primary care doctor. So they're never an opportunity to have a personal relationship with somebody where they're actually watching over your health, right? And these people have insurance. Everybody, I'm not pointing fingers, but we all need a primary care doctor. Okay, these things become important. The other thing is what we eat. We eat, we're always on the go. We always stopping at some fast food restaurant, but the bottom line is that may not be the best thing for us. You know what I mean? It isn't the best thing for us. And God knows, you like Starbucks, stay away from Starbucks. The level of the sugar, content is high. So these are some of the things that I want to say. The other thing too, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. We go to church, but do we have a personal relationship with God? Bible says, I'll keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me. How are you addressing your mind? Are you seeing a therapist at least 3 times, 4 times a year to deal with the trauma that you're watching on TV and TikTok? I'm just saying, these are some of the things. So Grace, can you go to the next slide? Pastor, I know you want to be done at 7 o'clock, but you got to give me time to finish, okay, tonight. I'm going to ask y'all for 10 additional minutes. I promise after that, I'll come to church. Listen, I want you to do something for me. This is very simple. All of us can do this. Now, I've done this for myself, and I've done this for my mother. I want you to get a loose leaf book. See this black loose leaf book? And I want you to put Crisis Notebook on it. Now, what should be in this notebook is every doctor that you have. Should be the numbers. If you see a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, whatever that person is, I want all that in here. The other thing I want, every medication you take should be in this notebook, and how often you take it, and where your pharmacist is, okay? Any labs that you get, I really stress this. If you can get a copy of your labs for your doctor, you should have a hard copy of your labs for yourself. Do you know every time you go to the doctor and they say, we're going to go to LabCorp, get your blood, you're paying for that. If you had your last labs within the last 6 months, you could say, this is what it looks like, so you can compare it. If you get a scan, a copy of that scan should be in that book. So when you get ready to go to the doctor, if in fact I pass out in my apartment, my husband can grab that and say, here, this is what's going on with my wife. This is who I need you to call. I need you to call the primary care doctor. If you're having surgery, you need to have this. Now, the other thing that I want you to have in this document, we do not have advanced directives. So we look at it as if we make ourselves full code, they have to do everything. That may be true, but I want to speak for myself if I can't speak for myself. And this document speaks to the medical institution based on my desires, who I am. And you do this for your loved ones so that they don't have to wrestle with the idea that, okay, mom is vented. Now I've got to wean her off the bed and I have to make the decision, and she passes away. It should be in this document. And I am a component of us having that. they have the same document. I go with 5 wishes because it allows you to put the spiritual aspect on it. But say that if your parent has Alzheimer's, they have an advance directive for those that have Alzheimer's or mentally delayed. There are advance directives just for that. The other thing too, you should have a person designated that will speak for you and do exactly what you say. But I always tell everybody, you should always have 2. Should always document 2. So these are some of the things that you can do. Next slide, Grace. I'm really trying to wrap it up. You all stop me if you have a question. One of the things that I think when I pastored, I was the chaplain of the church. And one of the things that I did is I had cooking classes, healthy cooking classes. I had, this was the height of the AIDS pandemic. So I had testing at church. Me and the pastor stood up and we both got tested for AIDS. We went to the barber shop and said, look, we're having this day, you don't have to worry about it, just be tested. These are the things that allowed us to wrap our arms around our community, right? But there were simple things that we did, I think, that made a difference for our elderly. We didn't say just have the form filled out. We sat down and we filled the form out for them. We had people come in and help us to do it the correct way. We had deaf cafes, that's what they call it now. But the truth is we gathered those that had lost loved ones, and we had a chew and chat with the chaplain so that they could feel that they had some unresolved grief. They could release that in a sacred space. If you noticed here, it's 2 things that I want to say. You see this as provide emotional support. I want you to really consider is sometimes we have trauma growing up, and then we have to care for our loved ones, and we didn't get a chance to have forgiveness. And we might be, one of the things we didn't talk about is when we're resentful that we are taking care of this person who didn't take care of us as a child. And now, because I'm a good old Christian, I'm trying to do the right thing. But I'm really angry about that, right? We need to talk about how to support, how to get support without judgment, which we call a non-judgmental presence. So this is why I suggest that you should talk to a therapist when you're caring for a loved one. Pastor, I'm in the time frame for you. I'm okay?
Yes, you're fine. Yes.
Okay. The other thing I really want you to do, I put in here, Maryland has a caregiver's form that says a care plan. This is where I want the church to get involved. Have a day where you sit down with the church members and help them develop a care plan individually. If you do that, this kind of empowers the caregiver to say, you know what, I'm doing something to make a difference. And that care plan has some of the things that I talked about, but it's more in depth than what I'm describing here. The other thing that I would say is, poll your congregation and see how many social workers you have that have this background that can help. Everything doesn't have to cost money. I can remember growing up in the 60s. I'm showing my age now with the gray hair. We did those kinds of things where we brought people in to, we used what we had in the congregation to make a difference. Does that make any sense? And that way, everybody that didn't have money didn't have to feel like they didn't have money, because everybody was rich because we were doing it together. So these are the things that I want you to do. I encourage, I say this 100 times, I always encourage people to seek a mental health professional. But I know you go to church, but it's something about talking to Jesus in the morning. So I'm going to I think I want to say Psalm 68. I think it's a whole spiritual care plan. I did it for a whole year. I read that scripture for a whole year, where I got up early in the morning, with my hands raised, and I start, writing things down when I was trying to make a decision to retire. Please get a spiritual care plan. Chaplain Grace can help you with that. Or, I can get some together and throw them to the church, and Pastor, you can do what you need to do with them. The church can help families preserve their loved ones' contribution. Now, this is the highlight of my chaplaincy, and I want to share it with you. When I was a parish chaplain, one of the things, our older people were dying quickly, and they wanted to feel a part. We would bring them to church and sit them on the pew, and we had a little meal. We made sure they got a plate, but we basically fluttered around them. We did the flutter. But the moment I start saying, let's get their story. Now, I know that some of you all are younger than me. They have that GPT, what is it called? Chat PT, whatever that thing is. They will write a story. They can write a story for you. If you had ask a couple little questions and put that in, and you had an iPad, it'll write a complete story. Wouldn't it be lovely to do that with some of your older members if you ask them the question? And guess what? That means Turner would have their stories with pictures. It even does graphics for you. It's one of the things that I wanted to do for the hospital, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that before I get you all excuse me for a minute. When I get ready to retire. But what I'm going to do, Lord knows I don't want to give anybody anything additional. But so what I'm going to do with the spiritual care plans, I'm going to give you some spiritual care plans that I already have, Pastor, and I'll send that to you. If you don't mind, making sure Chaplain Grace gives you my email address, and we can connect, so I can send that to the church, and then you can put them out, and the church can choose to pick them up who may want them. Okay, but I will say this here, down here, this takes the larger church to do this. This here church event, everybody has to buy in. They should volunteer. You shouldn't just pick somebody. You know what I mean? Because somebody will get left out. You never know who would want to participate. So next slide, Grace. I'm just about finished. So much I want to say, but I know we're at time. I do want you to go on Maryland's site. There are a lot of resources in the state of Maryland for caregivers. And our community, when I say our community, I'm talking about Prince George's, we don't use them. They're often used in Howard County, more so than anywhere else. Not even Montgomery County. Howard County uses them. Carroll County uses them. Then we get to Montgomery County, we're down on the list. And what I'm saying, there are a lot of resources, and there are some day programs that we should consider sending our loved ones to. And even if we went with them, it would be a day of fun. And so please, this will be a part of the slide. It'll be there, and you can go under I think caregiving, and they have a whole website. They even have resources where they come and clean your home and things like that. So I really want you all to take the time to do some exploring as to what your needs may be. Grace, next slide. Okay, so here's some of the things here where it says senior call and check. Some of these resources are there. I talked to you about the senior center. Now this here, you know, if you need a wheelchair and some things like that, you might want to call them to see if they had used wheelchairs, if you can't afford a wheelchair. The only thing that I can say that they may not be great source for is hearing aids, because hearing aids are so expensive and they have to be fitted. Does that make sense? So, but there are resources. Also, you can get alerts. Now, I put the CAP region there because if you end up at CAP region, right, then you need to contact the chaplain to say, "Chaplain, I'm here so we can come and visit." We are on the floor most days, so we get to as many as we can. But of course, it's because we use volunteers, we our service is for the very, very sick and more end of life. But that doesn't mean if we don't know that you're there, that we won't come and see you. I think there's one other slide. Is there, Grace? Do I have one more slide? So I didn't get to, I don't know what I forgot, but I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. But the biggest thing that I want to say to you tonight is reconfigure hope. That's the beginning. The other thing is empower yourselves as caregivers. You have more power, more tenacity than you know, but you have to change how you speak about how you feel. The moment you change your outlook about what you're doing and address how you're feeling, then you'll be able to care for this loved one that cared for you.
All right, that's chaplain. Is that it? That's
I kind of wrapped it up quick in
Yes.
case there were some questions.
okay. All right. All right. Thank you so very much. I do want to